Your friend Glenn, and yes, I am live today here on LinkedIn and elsewhere on the internet. So I'm back from Meet the Money. I'm back from Choice Hotels Conference. I'm back from getting a lot of great content on the road. Happy to be here with you today. Now, one of the people that I saw at Meet the Money this week was Matt Marquis of Pacifica Hotels, and it realized I get to talk to a couple of cool guys from over there, boutique hotel company. We're going to find out what is going on in California and celebrate the love that I have for that part of the business. And also enjoy seeing how cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs I am, because I am overtired, and that always means it's going to be a fun show. So let's welcome to the stage Mr. Scott Roby and Chris Marquis. Guys, how are you today?
Doing awesome, Glenn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great today. Chris, what's going on? How are you? All right. I think his internet seems to be up there.
Doing good, Glenn. Glad to be here.
All right, awesome. All right.
The rooftop of the Wayfair is looking good this morning.
Yeah, it sure is, and it's amazing that nobody's out there. You'd think at 9 a.m. it'd be flooded. All right, so that's the static image behind me. But I will tell you guys, I've had a lot of good meals up on that rooftop deck before. It makes me jealous that it's always such nice weather in downtown LA. So you guys done a great job with that property and so many others. But to kick us off today, Scott, what's going on in the world of boutique hotels with you right now?
Well, we're excited, Glenn. Joined the company coming up on 6 months ago as the president of Pacifica Hotels. And Pacifica is an incredible family operation, over 50 years in the business, and owner-operator. Got a great portfolio of hotels up and down the California coast, own properties in Washington and Oregon, and we also manage out in Hawaii. So we're having a great time. Maybe the current economic circumstances aside, but we've got a lot of drive-to markets. So those families that are saying, hey, we can't go to Europe, or we don't want to go on an international trip, or even jump on an airplane domestically, we've got a really great opportunity coming up this summer that families can jump in their cars and have an incredible vacation going up and down the California coast.
I absolutely agree with you, Scott, because your hotels are uniquely positioned to leverage the shift that I think all of us are seeing in the marketplace. As consumers are getting more pinched, that idea of going to that far-flung location. And I think, guys, everyone was in Greece last summer, for example, right? I think that's kind of over. So those local drive-to vacations, I think, are going to be more important than ever. But Chris, what do you think people are thinking about right now when they're looking to stay at a boutique hotel? And why do you think they're starting to choose boutique hotels over some of the brands names that we all know and love, have done business with?
Well, I think, what we've seen in the last several years is people are looking for a unique experience. And, we try to do that first and foremost by buying in location. When we buy hotels, we know there's only so much we can do to create the surroundings. Yeah. And so that's always our first step when we're looking at new acquisitions in our portfolio. And then from there, very, diligently looking at how we can enhance the guest experience, working with the operations team and creating just a unique experience for our guests that can also kind of combo in with the local surroundings and just create a unique environment that guests aren't used to and that they want to come back to.
Yeah, I think that's great. Hey, Polar Nights is saying, good evening from North Norway. Any plans to expand to Norway? Guys, it's kind of very similar to California.
I'd love to visit Norway. Right now, it's not on the target acquisition market, but I'd love to learn more about it. I've always wanted to go.
All right, so I want to know from you guys before we start talking about the internal mechanisms of the company and what your strategies are. Chris, you just led me down this direction. How are you folks, and either one of you jump in with the answer here, how are you folks trying to get closer to that customer to better understand who they are? Because quite frankly, Chris, that's what customers are looking for. They're looking for that integrated experience between hotel and community. So you got to know who they are to be able to sell them on that particular aspirational experience.
Yeah, well, Scott's our operational leader, so I'll let him tackle.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
So I think one of the unique things about Pacifica, Glenn, is we have this Pacifica Perks program for our 20 independent hotels. And, while it's not the size of Marriott Bonvoy or Hilton Honors, it certainly enables us to have direct communication with our customer, get to know and log their preferences. And those can be during the reservation process or a front desk agent that just hears a little piece of information. They can jump into the system and log it, and it's now going to be available to any of our 20 independent hotels. So if we know that you love Diet Coke, we're going to make sure we've got a Diet Coke in your room when you walk in. And just a little note that says, hey, Glenn, we know you like Diet Coke. Here's one on us. And just start to build those little connections with our guests.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you're actually doing it, because this is the type of stuff, guys, that I've been talking about for a long, long time. And you guys are great hoteliers, but so is almost everybody else out there, right? So we were getting the basics like 98% of the way there. So how can you break through that clutter? And it's things like this that really get you that mind share and gets people to then express how much they loved it to all of their friends and family, being it personally or social as well. But Scott, how are you actually enabling these things to happen? Because I do hear this story time and time again, and I've been giving some major hotel companies a lot of insights about me for 30 years, and they're still trying to sell me on stuff that I have no cares for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about personalization, right, is a big part of it. But another part of it for us as the operator is to inspect what we expect. And so, just yesterday on LinkedIn, one of my good friends posted about a pre-arrival chat experience at a hotel he's headed to. And the company just straight did not respond, and he then sent follow-up text saying, hello, is anybody monitoring this? I mean, it was enabled communication experience that completely faltered. So we do a lot of tracking at our company, and we do a lot of accountability around, hey, are we responding to text messaging apps? Are we engaged in the process? Obviously watching our guest sentiment scores, which is a little more rear view. But it's a lot of that, just holding a high expectation and having passionate general managers that love this business and know that they're here not because they're managing a real estate asset, but because they are in the guest engagement and the team member engagement business.
Yeah. And Polar Nights is saying they like those hotels that have activities included, from tour guides to front desk to knowing my name. Now, not every destination is going to have that tour guide thing, but people knowing your name goes so far. And I'll tell you guys a story. I will still remember this from the old Peabody Hotel in Orlando. I showed up, had whatever experience. The guy was super nice out front. I showed up 6 months later. He welcomed me back. And then a year after that, welcomed me back again. That is the type of stuff that cannot be beat. Whether he actually knew it or is utilizing some technology to enable it, it still made me feel special. Now, Chris, I know you're not on the operations side. You're much more on the investment side these days. But coming up in the hospitality industry and having an integral part in this business your entire life, where do you see opportunities for you to be able to succeed with integrating guest experience, ownership, and irreplaceable locations like you're in?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Glenn, your story, and you talked about, technology. I think where we see a big opportunity is leveraging technology. We've got a handful of repositionings and renovations we're doing at our properties. And, throughout that process, it's always very important for us to capture the voice of the customer. And so we're leveraging a variety of, AI and, scraping abilities and on-property technologies that we're implementing to really try to capture the voice of the customer in real time, not just retroactively. So we can not only apply enhancements during this renovation process, but that Scott can work with his team in enhancing the guest experience and, really making it a more personalized experience. And that all comes through how good are we at capturing that data, at getting, real-time information from our customers. And so we're putting investment into that, and we're really trying to leverage, state-of-the-art technology in doing that.
That's kind of a cultural element too, because you need people on board with the program to be able to listen, respond, and follow through with making that sure that information is enshrined forever over there. Chris, what really interests me is on that development side is that you're listening, and then when you're repositioning a property, how you might be able to pivot and think about different amenities or services based on what your customers are telling you, and give you a better idea of where they're going to be either when you open or a year or two after you're open.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have our thoughts when we're going into these repositionings, but you know, we have very diverse markets that we play in. You know, we have a handful of hotels on Moonstone Beach in Cambria that it has a very specific customer that goes up there and enjoys their time. And it's a much different customer that comes to our, you know, Venice Beach, Marina Del Rey properties, and, you know, or Pacific Beach in San Diego. So,
or even here at the Wayfarer.
Or here at the Wayfarer downtown. And so us really honing in on who those specific customers are and listening to those voices and then being adaptable as we're, considering these refreshes and renovations and, you know, enhancing guest experience. And what we found is, we're trying to be smart in utilization of every sort of public area we have as well. I mean, there's so much you can do now with public space, and people are wanting to spend more times in public spaces. So we're really trying to focus on activation and amenity enhancement at all these properties.
All right. I will say, my personal opinion is, I don't think people want to spend more time downstairs. I think that the hotel industry never gave them opportunity to do that. And once you started doing great things like creating amazing rooftop bars, such as the one here at Wayfarer, that made people want to stick around. So I think that we were so far removed from the generations that used to live in hotels or party in hotels and do everything in hotels. That was the central cultural hub of the neighborhood, that we lost a generation realizing that was possible. But guys like you and other great companies over the last 50 years have really helped bring back that resurgence in the ability to offer things on property, which I absolutely love. So Scott, when you're talking about having people that want to go to a hotel in LA versus something that's more beachy, you're really talking about parsing your audience, but you also want to try to find overlaps there as well. So how do you think about appealing to a guest, both in an urban environment and, I guess, vacation-y, resort-y type of environments?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to knowing the customer, but, we talk about two main things in our business, and that's placemaking and storytelling, right? And so placemaking is a lot of what Chris just talked about, listening to the customer, making sure our renovations are spot on, and we're thinking about how we want to activate the space,
right,
how a guest will feel in the space as a connectivity point to the local area, whether it be urban or beach. And then the storytelling part is our job, right? Yeah. We've got to come up with how can we make this location the most authentic location for the customer. They feel that they're in downtown LA. They understand downtown LA better for staying at our hotel versus staying at a branded, a hard brand. And so that's really what we focus on is, what does the business traveler want at Wayfarer downtown LA? Okay, let's be precise. Let's be quick. Let's give them what they want. Let's have the food and beverage offering when they need them, how they want them. And also be able to pivot and say, oh, you've got a couple of hours free. We're going to help you use those couple of hours to get to know downtown LA. And on the flip side of the coin, on Moonstone Beach, we're going to have the local vintners pouring you a glass of wine and, talking to you about where you should go and what you should explore while you're in town. So I think it's following both the pace of the customer and understanding what their hopes and dreams are for this trip, whether it be a one-night stay or 7-night vacation.
Yeah, that is absolutely on point for sure. Chris, you guys are such experts at this. So I know that there are a lot of other hotel companies that don't have that depth of expertise here for you. So right now you're partnering with 10 other properties, and I know that you're going to be focused more on managing properties on behalf of others. Tell me a little bit about that and why you decided to put more of an emphasis on that.
Well, I think, our emphasis really was allowing us to focus in our lanes and, bringing on a leader like Scott, who had the expertise and really the history of that hands-on customer experience, and really building out the, what was already a great platform in the management company as a robust full suite operating company, and that allows us to focus on the investment side. And so as we now have kind of gone down our individual lanes, we know there's numbers and scale. We know there's strength in having a great web of network of beautiful assets that we specialize in. And Scott is going to be actively and eager finding the right partners for them and the operating company that mesh well with the current assets and only make us stronger as a whole operating unit. And so we're excited about Scott and his team and really building out that part of the business, and we think it will enhance our assets that are part of it already.
Yeah, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think the first thing is when I sat down with the three brothers, Matt, Adam, and Chris, our vision really aligned. A lot of management companies are saying, hey, let's build this to sell it or be acquired or be an acquirer. Our goal is really to keep this as a family business and just continue to grow the portfolio in an organic way. We believe in a super regional, either being a regional or a super regional player. I don't believe in putting people on planes crossing the country. I think it's inefficient. I don't believe
that's bad. I was going to ask you to manage the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse over here. I've got one extra room, so I guess that's out. Oh well.
For you, Glenn, we would do it and we would maximize the heck out of it.
Yeah, Scott, you actually beat me to my next question. What is your strategy there? Because again, for educational purposes, a lot of times companies, they'll either choose to go all over the place or create regions where they could have a team in place and then kind of expand. So obviously California is your sweet spot, and being that California is the fourth largest economy in the world when separated from the rest of the United States, you probably have plenty of opportunity there. Are you thinking of solely California? Is this more of a West Coast play? What is your strategy here, gentlemen?
Yeah, this is definitely a West Coast play. I think we've proven that we can do it in California and in Hawaii. And we know that can be a transferable skill set very easily. But again, we've got to keep it tight and keep people off of planes, keep the local market knowledge that has made us so special over the years. Even this year, we've had a couple of groups come to us, and there have been some that have been geographic outliers that we just say no. But then there have been some that actually would be complementary to a hotel already in the portfolio and be a two-way benefit. And so we've been actually looking at those kinds of opportunities, even though we're really focused on solidifying the platform here in 2025.
Yeah, I like that, this strategy. I just love that you guys aren't like racing to be like everybody else. Because I truly fundamentally believe that you could either become a commoditized product and be the hest of what everyone else in your neighborhood is charging, or you could create something that's wholly unique that makes people want to spend whatever you're going to be charging per room and then eat and drink and do other things on site like spas and that sort of thing, because you're able to tap into some sort of emotions for them. So, Chris, I know you're not as involved in the operations and stuff anymore, but you grew up in this environment. So how do you think about creating a soul for a property that you guys acquire?
Yeah, that's a very important part whenever we're looking at any new acquisition. I mean, that's something that I think is just inherent with any real estate investor, is when you first walk a property, there's a soul of all properties. And, I think that's something that we take very seriously. We always kind of internally say we never really know what our interest is until we see the property. Yeah, and, for us, a lot of that is what the history of the property is, what the location is, and then, what we can utilize within our expertise and specialty to really, take advantage of the unique, public areas and the rooms and that they have to create something that's even better than maybe was there before. And so for us, we've always been heavily location driven. We love, there's just certain things that you can never duplicate by having the right location. So that first and foremost is always number one for us, is making sure we're in locations that aren't just relied upon one, segmentation of demand. We want to be in heavy leisure markets, it's great if we can supplement it with some corporate and group markets, but we always love being in heavy, high barrier leisure markets, and then really working with the ops team of how we can kind of turn the space on its head and create something new, both in design and our intent there, and then also with how we operate the property.
All right. So when you're walking that property for the first time and you're looking at it, I know the answer is different for every single property, but how often does the property tells you exactly what it wants to be? And how often do you look at a property and go, oh, this just can't really transform into something special?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you do this long enough, and I started doing this as a kid, walking properties with my dad, and I learned a lot from him as he walked them, and called out pitfalls, called out things that are going to be challenging, and
Right.
we've done this so much now as a team. We can look at each other and look at something in the room or something in the public area and kind of nod, and we're on the same page. But it's we've got a system down of 50 years of being in the hospitality business, where we're able to kind of know what's successful in the layouts of public areas, what type of F&B offering is great with the type of property we're looking at, what type of room space and bathroom amenities we need. And so as we're going and we're looking at the market we're buying in and the immediate demand that we're buying in, it's always a fun part, that first walk, and walking with our design team and our construction guys, and just looking at some of the capabilities and the way we're able to transform these properties into something that's going to bring a new and exciting experience in that market.
Yeah, and I love being able to start from scratch, but sometimes you inherit properties, Scott, that don't necessarily have everything perfect. So how in your past life have you kind of adapted to perhaps a infrastructure that wasn't really allowing you to optimize things the way you wanted to?
I think the first step is, admitting you have a problem, right? Yeah. You have to embrace it. You have to embrace, hey, the physical building is what the physical building is, and now what are we going to do about it? And just have people that are not willing to take an excuse as the lead statement and say, well, the building has no storage, or the lobby is too small. Like, okay, great. That is a fact. Now, what do we do about it? And so to make sure that we inspire our general managers and all of our teams to be solution-oriented thinkers and come with a statement of fact, and here's what I propose. Or I've brought together a group of people, we got in a room, we put our heads together, and this is what we've come up with.
Yeah, that's so important, because there's a lot of times there's the intersection of an aging asset, which is still a great asset, but it was built at a time when the customer behavior was in a completely different way. I.e. hotels that were built in the 60s and 70s, the bathrooms are much smaller than they are today. So as a customer, I always look at the age of the property and judge it accordingly for when it was built and what the standards were back then. But as an operator, sometimes it must frustrate you to have a structure built in another era while trying to, satisfy guest needs of today. It sounds like a pretty good challenge.
I think it's important too to make sure we're communicating transparently with the guests on the website of like, hey, let's not talk about our luxurious bathrooms if the bathrooms are super small. And so, balance marketing with being honest, so that when the guest comes, they can at least not have an over expectation of what they're walking into, but an appropriate expectation. Then we can hopefully blow their socks off with service.
That's cool. Chris, what kind of deals are you looking for now? And you think that's going to be changing as we seem to be heading into more of a down cycle in the hospitality industry?
Yeah, right now we're heavily focused on, shoring up our, we got great assets in our portfolio. And, sometimes when you have some of these choppier times in the transactional market, it's a great opportunity to really look internally at your own assets and how we can just maximize what, the assets we already know and that have done so well for us over these years and been great assets. And so, for 2025, we've really emphasized, hunkering down and focusing on our assets. We're addressing a lot of, capital needs that are going to enhance a handful of these properties. And then as we go into the latter part of the year, and as we continue to evaluate the macro markets, we think there are going to be opportunities in the markets we play in, and to expand the footprint and really continue to look for growth in these high barrier, high drive to demand markets that we love.
That is right. And that's music to my ears. I wish I had investment money to be able to do stuff right now. Because during COVID, everybody, there were big heroes out there who went and had the guts to do deals, and now they're sitting pretty. And as we head into a down market, Chris is absolutely right. There are going to be great opportunities that will appear that probably would not have revealed themselves if the market kept going up. So I'm the cockeyed optimist, and even in down times, I like to think about the opportunity that's over there. Scott, how do you think about doubling down on making people feel good and experience when they might be a little bit concerned about spending money, considering that consumer sentiment's down 33%, I think it is, since January?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it starts first and foremost with our team members, right? We've got to make sure that they feel safe and secure. And so we've just got to have good, open, transparent communication and literally be walking the floors and talk to them. How are you really doing today? What can I do for you? Not just your tools to do your job here, but what can we do for you in general? And just having good heart-to-heart conversations, checking in on people, I think is a big part of it. And it starts there. And then, if we can make them part of something special and, embrace that, I think it's a big step in the right direction for our general managers and our sales leaders in our home office team. We're just off of a great retreat up in Lake Arrowhead. So in the mountains, east of Los Angeles. And we spent 3 days just breathing in fresh air in a camp-like setting. Was very lodgy and very different from what the team has done before, being in Las Vegas and other places.
I was about to say, very different than my experience at Mandalay Bay last week, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, so we're just trying to how do we invest in our people in a different way? And so to have people outside breathing fresh air in a mountain environment, is just one small way that we're trying to invest in our team and help them live a better, happier, healthier life.
And that keeps people from going to other jobs. So it saves the company money in the long term. Plus, when people have a sense of purpose, they're going to share that energy with the people staying in your hotel. And I think that is the secret to getting people to say, oh, let's get that extra drink. Let's buy that fun appetizer. Let's do this thing. Let's get that extra spa treatment. All of that kind of good stuff over there. Chris, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we've been through a few cycles at our company with these assets, and what we find is when the consumer, is tightening the belt a little bit, our portfolio tends to benefit. We have a lot of drive to demand hotels, rather than jumping on an airplane and, spending maybe twice the amount on a family vacation. They look for these drivable markets that have some built-in demands, with whether it's the sand dunes in Pismo or the beach. And, our hotels and assets are positioned perfectly for those type of travelers. And as we've seen in other downturns in markets, or when times where the market's a little uncertain, we've really seen our hotels thrive. And going back to your point, Glenn, is then really dialing in on the customer and making sure that they can have the best vacation and experience possible, and save a little bit in the wallet than going over to Hawaii or overseas. So
yeah, I love it. And I think that's really what the secret sauce is. So anything I missed talking to you guys about today that you want to throw out there?
No, it's been a great chat. We're excited about the future. I think we've got an incredible platform, and it's been a lot of fun working with the brothers and jumping into this thing.
I'm super excited for all of you. And I say this for real, one of the best operators out there. And I just love your product and your energy that you put behind it. I've never had anything but an exceptional experience with one of your staff people. So thank you for that, and keeping the spirit of hospitality alive. Like I said, please, guys, hang out. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you for being here. Why? Because without you, none of this would be possible. So thank you for helping me be able to share such great information and live my life in the way that I am hoping to. Also, let's keep the party going. Follow me on LinkedIn, follow YouTube, Facebook, Insta, not really on that Instagram so much. So I just repurpose Craig Sullivan's stuff up there. But hey, LinkedIn me up. And until tomorrow, nope, not tomorrow. There'll be a lot more content soon, guys. We're going to be switching to an all recorded format from these live shows because I'm just traveling way too much. Anthony's traveling way too much. Can't seem to figure stuff out. So we're working on it. Don't you worry. And we will see you next time. And remember, until then, you've got one life. So blaze on. See you all later. Bye-bye.